the Career Doctor semi-regular Friday office hours. Hope you're having a good Friday. This is an opportunity for my community to engage with me on a personal level, ask questions about medical job and career process in Australia. And as usual, we are going to have a look at some of the questions I've got on YouTube and answer um, any of your questions live as well if they as and if they come in. So we'll probably go for about 40 odd minutes today. I've got something I've got to get ready for by 11. But yeah, let's get into it. So we are going to have a look at. I'm just going to make sure that I've got access to my LinkedIn. This is a question there. Put that on mute. I'll go over to my community tab and then we'll share that screen. Go. Got to see that now. And that's all working splendidly. Okay. So again, welcome to anyone who's viewing live. Feel free to put your comments, questions in the chat. You can do that on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So we might start at the top today. Hi from Abby Kulkarni. Hi Doc, I'm RMG from India. Is there any information regarding on ortho being considered for expedited pathway? So not as yet. So the I'll hop over to the Medical Board Australia. Change screen to the Medical Board. See if we go to registration. So what is happening here is that the state and federal health ministers in Australia, they meet quarterly or something like that, as part of like what's called there's like something called COAG, Council of Australian Governments, and then there's like committees, etc. So I think there's like a health ministers advisory committee, and essentially, what it's looking like is it sort of a couple of times a year, they're asking the medical board basically to add more specialties to the list. So really, this is coming down to what's priority areas. You can see that they've actually decided obstetrics and gynecology now, and so the next three are in two under the College of Physicians, one and then one for radiology, and then they'll probably announce the next. So you just have to watch this space. Orthopedics, look, I suspect some surgical specialties will make it on the list eventually, and orthopedics might well be one of them. That will be interesting because the College of Surgeons does wield a fair bit of power. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But as of yet, we have no information about whether any surgical specialties are going to make it to the list. So good question. And look, if you're from India, the other thing is just to point out, so thus far, and this can kind of give you an idea of what might happen for other specialties, really it's come down to Irish qualifications, UK qualifications, New Zealand for general practice because there's a college over in New Zealand. So really, one would not suspect that even if you were an orthopedic surgeon from India, that you would be eligible for the expedited pathway. And you can't go over to the UK and qualify either. If you dig into these, you'll see, for example, from psychiatry, you have to have done the actual training in the UK. So it'll likely be restricted to UK and Irish qualification, regardless of what specialties come up. Um, let's change back then. So next question. Let's stick at the top here. So Black Stud 1965. Thank you for your compliments there. Masters in general surgery and further specialties in oncology. Lots of experience to do. What are my eligibility options? Hi there. Thanks for the feedback. So you have a couple of pathways as options. Really, the only one you would want to consider is specialist pathway. I have plenty of videos about that. And as I've said in a number of my comments, this is tough with the College of Surgeons. They have the lowest, about 58% rate of comparability assessment. Favorable. Welcome those who've joined me online live. Feel free to put a question or in the chat if you want to ask me a question. We're answering questions from my YouTube channel. And I had cleared the backlog for 5 months, so we're still up to 4 months. That's great. So it'd be nice if we can get rid of the 4-monthers today. So question about when you are partially approved and should complete 2 to 3 years, you should find a paid job, or it's no paid internship. Like, okay, so that's somewhat of your question is a bit confusing. I understand you are wanting to know what sort of job you need to find after the college assessment. Firstly, all medical jobs in Australia are paid, including internships. You would not, however, be looking for an internship. As a general rule, if you are found partially comparable, you will be looking for an advanced training level job. Found substantially comparable, you could take up a similar post or a consultant post supervision. Yeah, and this is actually explained in my videos in that series. If you'd made your way through a bit further, you would find out about that. And I do have a course on my website as well, which is probably worth pointing out. So if you just Google specialist pathway course, my course comes up at first. It's pretty much, I think it's the only course on the specialist pathway. And it's free to access, and it takes you through all the steps. Okay. Sorry, I wasn't sharing that. Let me just try that again. So if we go back to screen sharing. So if you Google specialist pathway, it will come up. Specialist pathway course, I should say. And this free to access from my website. Had over 1,200 students enrolling. Okay, next question. The recent qualified specialist in psychiatry in Ireland. Thanks, Sharon. The prospects for psychiatrists from the UK and Ireland have always good here. I recommend taking specialist pathway. I currently work for the College of Psychiatrists, so I can't actually officially advise people, but my course is there for anyone free to enroll. And so that'll give you a bit more of an overview of the process. But essentially, you've got some pretty good prospects and you won't have trouble finding a job here from what you've described. So MBBS in check whether we've got any questions. Feel free to put any questions you might have in the chat. Okay, learning medical education. Medical degree in 2017, then worked for 4 years, then did a 3-year MD internal medicine in Nepal, then working as a consultant position. So, well, you are viewing the specialist. I mean, in my course, it describes, well, it doesn't actually tell you about the expedited pathway in my course. I haven't sort of updated it on that way. Um, uh, um, uh, Video series. This is the correct series. I would say, though, that 3 years just in internal medicine may be a bit of an issue in terms of what I've seen with candidates applying for general acute care and general medicine with the College of Physicians recently. There have been a few candidates who have been told they haven't done enough training. So just be mindful of that. Gastroenterologist from Pakistan, 2 years of internal medicine, 3 years of what are your chances? So, my general answer to this sort of question is I'd need to sit down with you on a call to give a more accurate appraisal based on your info. You have a good chance with the college assessment finding a job, however, may be tricky. And this is because you need to know what jobs are in demand here in Australia. Basically, jobs that have a procedure attached to them, like gastroenterology, tend to be more competitive here. So, a question about the competent authority pathway for the supervisor report. Is it for when we are working in the UK in the 47 months? No. In this video, when I refer to a supervisor report, I mean you are required to have supervisor reports for your first 12 months working in Australia. The common authority pathway is probably the easiest pathway in terms of its simplicity and accessibility. Basically, you just have to qualify through one of the 4 countries, get an appropriate job, get that approved by the medical board for competent authority pathway. And then the general requirements there is that you perform satisfactorily in that role for 12 months. And there's kind of an initial report that needs to be filled out that sort of shows that you're being had a successful orientation, and then last time I checked, there's like a 3-month report and then another report, which are again completed by your supervisor, and they just need to attest that you're performing at a satisfactory level, and then once that all is completed, you'll be offered general registration at the end of 12 months. Much less complicated than say the standard pathway process. Um, yeah, and feel free to ask me any questions in the chat, uh, or and I am monitoring my LinkedIn as well. That doesn't automatically come through to me. Okay. Pop up to the top again then. Actually, I'll just refresh this. Um, yep. Um, I've had a chat to you, Brian. I have got your email. I just haven't responded to your partner's email. But we'll get back to that. Let's start at the top here. Yeah, I think I've responded to I've responded to you as well, Debbie. Uh, yes, sometimes understanding the APRA website. I don't know why they've gone. Actually, this is a mystery to me. Uh, Just a sidetrack here, really, pretty much. But one of my peeves. So the medical board sits under APRA, and they've decapitalised themselves. Where is APRA? Is it here? Let's just go to APRA. The 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 grammatically, correct English in me wonders why that's the case, because APRA is an acronym and it stands for the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency. So I don't understand why they've changed it to capital A HPRA, because it's not a word, it's an acronym. Anyway, just as an aside. But yes, it is confusing sometimes. Um, um, as I have clarified, are not eligible for expedited. The expedited pathway, the only training that's eligible for that for psychiatry is from the UK. Okay. Okay, question from Gino. If you don't end up getting into the specific surgical specialty you want, where do you go from there? Um, Basically, you apply for as many specialties as you are interested in. You have one chance every year. If you don't make it into a specialty that you have applied for, there is no process putting you into another one. I.e., general surgery, not a default surgery training specialty. It's own specialty. Eventually, trainees will start bring other um, non-surgical specialties. So often people take about, in my experience, 3, 4, or 5 goes to get in. Might get lucky with, you know, you can get in the first time round or even the second, but it's more like the third. After about 5 years of working as an unaccredited surgical trainee, generally in my experience, um, people will move on because your chances start to diminish at that point quite considerably. Um, yeah, and feel free to ask a question or put a comment in the chat. Uh, refresh again. So we've got to a backlog of 3 months now. Few of those. I get to 2 months. Okay, this is a very long question, Mahesh. I get a bit tired, get a bit exhausted by long, drawn out questions. Yes, I understand in the US you go straight into residency. Um, uh, so you've done your MD in the US, but you haven't sat. We don't give in Australia. We sit our examinations. Um, uh, USMLE exams. Um, and you've done experience in your MD. Um, so, um, so basically, what you are telling me is that you have not worked as a doctor before. This technically makes you eligible to apply for intern posts here, but as discussed on the video, the chances are extremely best chance is probably complete US please do 2 years US. You said makes you eligible pathway. Uh, um, yes, I'd recommend watching my video series topic. I should do. Oh, I actually have done one about expedited pathway, haven't I? I just need to work out how that goes into the series and in my course. Probably need to update the first video in that series at some point too. Thanks. We do have a post about specialty training requirements on the Advanced Med website. Just go to that. There's actually quite a lot of useful information here, particularly if you're an IMG. A page with packed with resources there, and also have a question bank um, for you to help you with job interviews. That's for all doctors. Um, Here also on the blog we have a post done by a medical student once. Here, entry requirements for specialty training. Allow me to pop that into the. You look at through this, it tells you, does go over whether you need to have PR for what. Okay, for example, sports medicine is only open to Australian citizens and permanent residents. Whereas emergency medicine training, you can do it on a visa. That wasn't showing up. So there you guys, the post there. Um, a question from Shankar. Should I go for standard pathway or specialist pathway? Um, um, so if you're a specialist, Shankar, should always consider the specialist pathway first. Okay, it's your best chance of working in Australia in the sort of way you want to work in Australia. All standard pathway does for you is just like the USMLE in the US or the PLAB or the medical licensing exam in the UK. All it does is get your general registration, then you have to reapply for training. So, um, if it's your dream to work in Australia and you don't care if you don't work in your specialty anymore after having spent a lot of time training in it and working in it, and you think your prospects via the specialist pathway are low, you can always look at the standard pathway. But I'm just giving you the reply they give to everyone. You're a specialist, try the specialist pathway first. That's your best option. If you want to go into the pros and cons a bit more and talk about your situation, what your chances are, I do offer strategy calls, and I might just sort of show that. Um, my strategy call. So you go to coaching advanced med, then strategy call, and we can go into your situation in a bit more detail. Just to note that I am quite heavily booked out at the moment. So if you're thinking of doing a strategy call, the sooner you pay for one, the sooner you'll be able to book it in because my next public availability is on the 13th of May there. So I hope that helps you. We've got another question coming in so that's from Facebook. YouTube, and we've got one from Dinu. I think it's just a hi. Hi to you, Dinu. What are you doing? What are you up to today? I've got a question. I've got a request to guide through applying for the short-term pathway in nuclear medicine. Um, so I am not ever going to be able to write a guide for each specialty. Basically, you find a trainee job in nuclear medicine and you apply to the RACP. Lots of um, info about on their website. Um, is there any way to contact you? This amazes me. Um, so on YouTube, if you go to someone's channel page, uh, how can I demonstrate this? Let's just go YouTube doctor. Uh, to do this in incognito. That'll work. Switch over. Most of you will know this, but if you go to someone's channel page, um, you will get subscribe options. You'll get lists of their videos. You'll get on the homepage curated lists. Here's all like my curated lists of various things to help you out and organize things. And there will be there's an about here that has all my links, all the places you can find me. If you go, for example, to my coaching page, let me just show you what that looks like. Then I have a contact box here. So there are plenty of ways of emailing me or contacting. Let me just finish this other one, Dino, and I'll get back to your question. Plenty of ways. Check out my channel page. There's also all my links in pretty much every video description as well. I guess some people just don't realize that, particularly if they're watching YouTube on mobile or something like that. So your wife is an ophthalmologist, 4 years experience, currently in Australia. Um, and then you're also asking about short-term training and take the AIMS. Um, yeah, look, Bransco assessments are uh, fairly tough. Not the 58% that the College of Surgeons have. Um, Finding posts are also sometimes tricky. The idea of starting off short term is a good one, although technically this not for doctors intending to stay here. This is the sort of scenario where doing AMC as a backup makes sense, you know. Um, I mean, I've never seen anyone be knocked back on the short term pathway because somebody says that um, um, uh, um, like the medical board thinks that the person's going to stay here. But I mean, that is the premise of the short term pathway. So I guess it's always theoretically possible that someone might decline it on that basis. Um, you could, doing the AMC part one, there's also the opportunity to start working that way. I mean, ideally you would still work towards the specialist pathway, but it's not the easiest one with the College of Ophthalmology. They don't have a great deal of good information about their process on their website either, compared to most other colleges. And then the other thing I'd say about it is, as I said, finding a post can be a bit harder because it's a bit more niche. And they do have an examination that sometimes people fail when they're on the partial comparability pathway. So not everyone gets through either. So that's also a bit of a problem. But thanks for your question. And hope you're having a good day. I'm probably going to wrap it up in the next few minutes. So let's just do maybe a couple more questions. I might just refresh so I get rid of all the ones I've done. Almost got to 2 months. Um, okay. Not really sure what that one's about. Um, Hi, you. Looking at the specialist pathway, the costs are approximately $10,000 plus. Um, can an IMG with AMC provisional registration work for private hospital in Australia? Yes, this is possible. It happens under the Commonwealth scheme for the intern top. So yes, you can do it in a private hospital. Generally, private hospitals are not going to take you on as provisional registration unless the government supports them to do that because you're fairly junior, and business case, of them paying you is when you have to be supervised is not really there for them, but certainly under that Commonwealth scheme that can occur. And you've asked the same question on another video, so copy paste. And again here. I mean, I will answer your questions. You don't have to keep posting them in different places. Um, um, thanks. And yes. Um, that's a pretty old video. Actually, it's pretty much I should update that one as well. The general information there is the same still in terms of um, you might have to work rurally in Australia as an IMG, but it's not as bad, not as extreme as you think it might be. Um, uh, yes, finish registration. Afterwards, need to follow here. Down to 11 days ago. That's pretty good. All right, guys, I might pause it there. Thanks for those who joined me online. Hopefully that was helpful for you today. Looks like I'm getting close to clearing my backlog of questions, so I'll have to come up with something else to do for regular office hours. Might think about, as I said, sort of going over some topical issues, like that issue of uh, updating some of that video content. The question of having to work rural, we could probably look at that at one of our live streams. So we're going to be here next Friday. Probably, I think. Check my calendar. No, I've got a committee on. Okay, so I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks' time then.